break.
Got open man. DJ Moore. End zone. Touchdown. Touchdown Bears.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes. Oscar.
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
Pressure coming. He's in big trouble. Down he goes. Montez Sweat.
And
Now, Bears Etc., brought to you by Miller Lite with the voices of the Bears, Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer.
Well, it's over as quickly as it started, and participants in the first preseason game in Canton, Ohio, the Bears one of the first to end the preseason with a convincing victory in Kansas City, 34-21, to wrap up what is a 4-0 preseason for the first time since 1994. Welcome in, everybody. I'm the voice of the Bears, Jeff Joniak, with Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer, and our special guest for episode number 87, which is brought to you by Miller Lite. We had to have the former Bear, number 87, who played on that 1994 playoff team, Tom Waddle, from Waddle and Sylvie on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network, but also our good friend, a member of that team that went to the playoffs and had 2 playoff games. Tommy, I never thought I'd see the day we're doing a podcast with us hosting you.
I am thrilled. I'm honored, and you know I love you guys, so it's my pleasure to be with you.
P. Waddle, I want to hear one thing, though. So I hear the introduction about you being a member of the all Madden team at one time. Do you still have the Madden sweatsuit?
Oh, yeah. It's Tom.
Is it wearable or is it like an archive?
No, I tried to put it behind glass and hang it up at one point years and years ago. And my oldest daughter said, "Hey, that looks really cool. Is there any chance I can wear it to school one day?" And I was like, this was years and years later. And I said, absolutely, you can wear it. Now I have 4 daughters. It has been passed down from daughter to daughter to daughter. It's still in really good shape. But it's not the behind glass memento that it was years and years ago. It's really, in John Madden fashion, it's really, it was durable. It really has been durable and really cool.
A taboo story about that. So Jay Hilgenberg made the all Madden team a couple times. So one day I was at his house looking for a sweatshirt and he goes, "Just put that sweatshirt on." I go, "No way. If you don't make it, you don't wear it." And so I would never put on an all Madden team sweatshirt if it wasn't my own.
You got to be friendly with him, Tommy. Did you ever bring up the fact that where's a little love for Tom Thayer, a grinder inside there?
No, but he mentioned me in one of his books, 1 knee equals 2 feet, and he gave me some props about playing in the USFL and the NFL back-to-back, so I felt vindicated. No sweatsuit, but it's in print.
But you guys are made men. When John Madden acknowledged you, know you guys are made men in the NFL, right? It's lingered for the rest of your careers.
Yeah, you realize that year I made it was 91, I think. I think it was me, Jerry Rice, Michael Irvin. I think maybe Art Monk was on that list. It was the prototypical, Jeff. One of these things is not like the other. You had all pro me, which was cool.
So 1994, we're only bringing it up. And I tried to get Coach Eberflus to bite in the pregame interview. I said, man, it'd be kind of cool to go 4-0. And he goes, he wouldn't bite in it. I know it doesn't mean much. He didn't say that, but I did. But I just feel any kind of winning is important for this club right now. This has been an organization that's been on a roller coaster ride and has had so many dips that they're trying to establish a winning culture. And maybe it started last year with the end of the season and is carrying into, and it certainly feels that way. But I put some importance on it. And they just didn't go into these games. They whipped some tail a little bit. They went the blitzing. Are you kidding me? I love it. I love the blitzing. I love that they ran the ball. I love the balance. Tommy Thayer, what do you feel what I'm saying, or does it matter? Because that 4-0 Bears team went to the playoffs and went into the second round.
Yeah, but the story of the NFL, the preseason is so individualized. If you're a guy like Tom Waddle, if you're a guy like Tom Thayer, your only intent when you start training camp is to make the football team. So if I got 20 pancake blocks and the Bears lose every game, I'm okay with that because I'm making the team. And unfortunately, that's the only portion of the season that it can be individualized because the wins really don't matter. And I don't think coaches are going to put a lot of out front stake in it. but I guarantee you behind the scenes in the privacy of a team meeting, they'll compliment the accomplishment, but they're not going to make a big deal out of it.
It's such a great point, Tom. And look at some of the highlights from the preseason. The Bears had 12 sacks. They only allowed 2. They had 5 interceptions. Their quarterbacks threw 0. Now, I'm with you. Like, everything starts for real now, and now it starts to count. But I think success breeds success in a lot of ways. And when you start to have some success, you start to expect some success. So I think most importantly, guys, to me, was the fact that I thought they got better in a number of ways over the course of this entire training camp. And the list is long in the improvements, but I think overall that was the lasting impression I had from this preseason.
You know, Ditka always says winning is contagious and losing is contagious. And so what you say, T. Waddle, is I do believe that. And so it has been a productive preseason.
Certainly easier to build off a win than a loss, although there's a lot of lessons in both. Tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. So you guys mentioned improvement over the course of the preseason. Will each of you, at the top of your head, come up with 3 major improvements that you saw in the preseason? We'll start with T. Waddle.
I would say even the quarterback play. I think Caleb Williams showed progress. There were things that he did in his first action that I thought was spectacular in Buffalo. Some of the throws were fantastic. I thought the 3rd down throw he made to DJ Moore in the first conversion, I thought was probably his best throw, because it showed you how he plays the quarterback position in a really efficient manner and with a lot of knowledge behind it. So I thought that we watched him grow even in a short period of time. I would say also you saw some offensive line improvement over the course of time, and you don't have your 5 standard guys right now, but to only give up 2 sacks over the course of 4 games, I think is really, really good. And I would say that some young guys rushing the passer, probably from, I call it improvement. Maybe it's not improvement because they were getting after quarterbacks from the jump in preseason, but I love watching young guys define themselves. So I whether it was Booker or it was Hardy, I love seeing these guys actually go out there and get a little bit of notoriety.
Yeah, I would agree with you. The complimentary pass rusher to Montez Sweat, and whether it's Hardy or whether it's Booker, we still haven't seen enough of Jacob Martin to maybe possibly put him on the radar. Javon Dexter had a really good training camp, and I think he's a big body that he can use his length as an asset, so the defensive line is better. This whole team on the whole roster, the development of depth, I think they're better off in a lot of positions that if you do have a hiccup during the course of the season, you can fill it with a legitimate veteran option, and there's some young guys that are developing along the way. And like you started with the quarterback position, there's no denying that Tyson Bagent is a good, solid backup. He's a good sounding board in the quarterback room. The complimentary that Shane Waldren is passing along to these quarterbacks with balance in the way he calls the game. And listen, man, the story is Caleb. When you can go out there, and if it's like seeing a baby, if you see a baby every day, you don't notice the growth. If you see a baby maybe once every 2 weeks, it seems like he's turning into an adult before your eyes. And I think that's one of the cool things about Caleb. He has showed significant growth since the day he came aboard.
That anecdote from the only one of the 3 of us does not have his own child, but he's seen plenty of babies in your family, right?
Right. That's the thing about it. And I don't see babies every day because I don't have one, but I see my nieces and nephews since I've been 9 years old.
Yes, and there are a lot of them. That was a great anecdote right there. So I'm going to pick up at the baton there because the Caleb story, and I had a message this morning from an unnamed NFL scout that said, you guys are going to be just fine. You got him. And that's referring to the quarterback, obviously, but also mentioning the fact that the depth across the board is substantially different. And I can close my eyes now and I can see the Bears offense, and I can see the Bears offense making plays because there are weapons. We said that there were going to be, and Caleb is going to prove that these weapons can be thrown open, or they can get open and create the separation that may have been lacking over the years. And it's not just going to be DJ Moore. It's going to be a lot of different guys. And then I revert to the secondary. I've just fallen in love with almost every one of those guys. They're all not going to be on the team. But how about the play of this Reddy Stewart? Undrafted out of Troy, plays with his hair on fire, physical. From the time camp started, he was intercepting passes and then put on that command performance last night in Kansas City. Just terrific reads on the ball and trusting himself and being a little bit patient there at the goal line, and then the pick six. And I don't know if Adrian Gilbert's going to make the team, but he can blitz anytime for me at safety, and he laid out and knocked the ball that ball away. That was going to be a big play. It was one of the most exciting plays I've seen in a long time. And then Booker. I mean, Tommy Thayer, I got to make sure I differentiate the two of you now. T-squared T-Wad has been all over the development of Booker from the jump, and albeit 21 years of age, this guy, he's going to be an animal. I don't know if it's how it's going to work out over the course of this first year, but in the big picture, this guy, he could be really something. He's just getting started.
You know, one thing about Booker, which another compliment is when I first saw him on one-on-ones, you can just see a naturally gifted pass rusher that doesn't need to be repeatedly coached how to get better. My curiosity was how he's going to play the run. And because of his pass rushing skills, he plays the run equally as well. And so that's what probably at the end of the preseason I'm most excited about in Booker, as much as I am just being a naturally gifted pass rusher.
I think with him as well, and Tom, you could speak to this better than I because I was never at the point of attack. But I think a player like him who doesn't have a ton of experience, like you go back to his college days and there's not, 1,700 reps there. I think that he would be best suited, in my humble opinion, of being somebody that you rotate in and you allow him to grow at his rate, which I think will be very quick. But I just don't think you could take a player like him, stuff him in there and ask him to, or expect him to do too much. Let him dictate his growth rate. And I think that you'll be just fine with how he does that. It's like I equate it to, you see quarterbacks that, Bo Nix in Denver's had a really good training camp as well. Nobody's played more snaps in college football than Bo Nix did. It's why I think Brock Purdy came in and the acclimation process wasn't very difficult because he played so much football, regardless of the level. And by the way, at Iowa State, I believe, Jeff, right? Isn't that where Brock Purdy came from?
Yes, you definitely know that. Come on now.
The point that I'm making is that he's still getting ramped up with regard to playing football. And now you're playing at the highest level. And I share your guys', appreciation for how well he has showed himself so far in training camp. I just think the process now, when it gets real, he'll see it'll speed up. It'll get more physical. So
one thing of T. Waddle, don't sell yourself short. I've seen you at the point of attack. A couple of crossing routes and the Tampa Bay Bucks in the bottom of your chin has the proof to show it.
That's true, but I was on the receiving end. I wasn't on the delivering end ever. So,
but you tried. You stuck your nose, like they said. You put your face in there.
Yeah,
chin first.
Yeah.
Who hit you, or who'd you hit?
Thomas Evert. It was so funny too, Jeff.
Boy, Thomas Evert.
I was out there. It was in the first half, and I'm balling. It's 1994, I think, and I hadn't played a ton. I was the third receiver. I think we had an injury, and I got the start, and I was out there. I think I had 3 or 4 catches in the first half, and whack, Thomas Evert, Steve Walsh, who I love dearly, threw me a medicine ball, as they like to say. It's when he throws it up, you're gonna find yourself in trouble. And Thomas Evert lowers his helmet, hits me right here on the chin, and just exploded in my face, and actually had an MCL issue on the way down as well. But I think they asked Wani, who Thomas Evert played on Wani's Dallas defense years and years prior. I think they asked Wani after the game if he thought it was a dirty hit. And he goes, no, I thought it was clean. The following morning in the newspaper, there's a picture, on the sports page of the Tribune. Thomas Everett's got his helmet down and hits me right on the chin with spear. It was just one of those moments for sure.
Have you ever interviewed Thomas Everett on your show? Okay.
No, I've not.
You know his whereabouts. Would you like to have a? Would you like to take a meeting? Would you like to?
I harbor no ill will. It was part of the job description.
We are brought to you by as well Vizzy Hard Seltzer, flavors for every vibe. Celebrate responsibly. Molson Coors Beverage Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You were referring to the Madden recognition. Each of you, and I hope Tommy says what he's going to say, but I hope he is. But you guys have secured many mementos over the course of your playing careers, whether it be at the high school level, college level, or the NFL level. Do you have a favorite memento that you still cherish that is in your possession in each of your lives? Tommy, you better say the right one here, but
I don't know. Now I'm kind of not saying it because I'm worried that if I don't say the right thing, that
It better be your Super Bowl ring.
correct.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I thought that was an obvious, you know what I
Well,
always said
with you, because you're a minimalist and you do not, that's not your thing, is to collect mementos or look back on your fond career. But yeah, so it's not an obvious for me.
Well, no. So
you.
let me just clarify that, because when I was watching Hard Knocks this past week, and Ryan Poles, they were filming in his office, and he's sitting in front of his Super Bowl trophy. The Super Bowl trophy to me is as equally as important than my Super Bowl ring, because I never wear that. But if the Super Bowl trophy was in our restaurant when we had a restaurant, or people get to see it for the first time, I recently brought it to an appearance, and people that never got to stand next to a Super Bowl trophy did. So I like the Super Bowl trophy as much as I do the Super Bowl ring, just because I don't wear a lot of jewelry, and it basically sits in a box in a cabinet and rarely sees the light of day.
Wow.
Jeff, I would say obviously the Madden sweatshirt is something that I'm very, very proud of, to be in the company of those great receivers I mentioned, and to be recognized by, one of the greatest coaches of all time was very special to me. But I would say, I was the recipient of the Piccolo Award my last year in the league, and it's voted on as the veteran or by your teammates. And the fact that my teammates saw enough of me at that time, knowing that I wasn't contributing at the same level of a Curtis Conway or a Jeff Graham or some of the other players. I was at the tail end of my career, but always considered myself a professional in how I went about doing my job, and always gave it everything that I had. That's probably the thing that I most treasure from my time in Chicago.
That is awesome recognition. I mean, you look at the Piccolo Award, you look at being named the All Madden team. Those are some awards that are not duplicated by a lot of people. And when you have it, and then you have evidence of it, it's pretty cool.
We're going to get back to the Bears, but this is a flow in this podcast. So whatever is top of mind. Did you guys both envision a career in broadcasting while you were playing? You're thinking, I might want to do that. Was that ever, were you ever thinking about that as you were winding down your careers respectively? Waddle, you can start.
Jeff, I have a finance degree from Boston College, and I don't say that as a flex. I'm not flexing. What I'm saying to you is I went to school and studied this, portion of the economy to actually, my thought was I was going to be in the finance world sooner rather than later, because it was a long shot that I was ever going to be able to actually live my dream. So I was more than ready to go to Wall Street. But that's actually, that never occurred. And I got an opportunity to play. And, the funny thing is I want to say the last 2 years I was playing, we all got the opportunity to do the Sunday night television shows, right? Like Channel 2 with Ditka or whatever else. I was doing a Monday night or a Tuesday night radio show with Dave Ennett at one point too. And I got exposed to the media industry, Jeff, and it was something that I really enjoyed. And over the course of time, I had an opportunity after I retired to segue right into broadcasting and didn't have to use the finance degree. And I found that, for me, at the very least, it's the closest thing that I've ever really experienced to competing. The light goes on, you better have something to say. You're still a performer in some ways, the way you were as an athlete. So the adrenaline rush exists at different times, as you know, as well. So, I never envisioned it, but I'm sure glad I got the opportunity. I've loved what I've done for the last several decades.
3 decades.
I honestly thought about being a professional wrestler. I figured I got, I have a bald mullet. I got the look. I'm, 300 pounds. I'm a weightlifter. I was healthy at the end of my career, so I figured I could go take some of that abuse. And then I found a surfboard, and that was over. And then I got into surfing that, and then got into the media end of the business. But so before our last playoff game, the NFC Championship game, we were practicing at Notre Dame. And I did an interview for the back page of the Sun-Times. I still have a copy of it in the basement of my mom and dad's house here. And the last question they asked is, what do you see yourself doing at the end of your career? And I said, I think I'm gonna get into professional wrestling. And
wow, I've known you for 28 years.
Right.
I do not. You've never told me that.
Well, I'll let you read. I'll take
That's
a picture
hilarious.
of this article and let you read it. And I really did. I was thinking,
Yeah.
okay, here I am. I think I could take what I've accomplished in football, and I still have size and I still have health. And then I will say, then after when Steve McMichael got into professional wrestling, we went out to dinner the night he got back from a school in Atlanta of a month of learning a little bit about the business. And he goes, "Hey, Tommy, look at this." And he lifted up the side of his shirt, and his entire rib cage was black and blue, just vicious. And I go, "Ming, what is that?" And he goes, "That's just from learning how to bounce off the turnbuckle. That's how to learn how to bounce off the ropes and stuff." And I was going, "Whoa, that is some serious business there."
I think you took the right path, Tommy.
Yeah, I agree.
Preservation.
Yes.
We're brought to you by PNC, official bank of the Bears. Okay, let's get into where we're at now. Cut down is Tuesday, so many of those guys likely will get back on a practice squad, likely the Bears practice squad. But I do believe there are going to be some difficult cuts. Tommy, we saw Velus Jones run for 111 in a final preseason game. How do you evaluate that?
Look, I've never denied the athletic ability that Velus has. When I balance the good versus the not so good, I still come up on the not so good side. I just want to know where he fits. I think you've got a nice complement of running backs. I'd hate to see somebody like, and I don't think that'll happen, but somebody like Khalil Herbert find himself in the outside looking in because they're trying to, use Velus Jones as a running back. I don't think Velus is going to be somebody that's going to play a lot of snaps at wide receiver if they keep him. I think the kickoff return, as we've learned over the course of time, and we may change our opinion of it, is really a glorified running play. And if it's a glorified running play, I don't know about you guys, but I'd much rather see Khalil Herbert doing that than somebody else. So I thought he played really well last night. I don't know if it's enough. I think they played Homer and they played others before him. I don't know if you read between the lines with regard to, how they put the guys in, but I think Velus is on the bubble. And I think it's in his favor, Jeff, because he was the first offensive draft pick of Ryan Poles. But I think the body of work probably works against him a little bit.
I think that both Velus Jones Jr. and Tyler Scott put themselves on the NFL roster radar, but I think that's for all teams. So now if there's a team out there that's desperate for speed, but Tyler Scott did enough last night to either open the eyes of other GMs or continue the interest by Ryan Poles. And then when you look what Velus did in a desperation time, because Ian Wheeler went out of the game with an injury, Homer was already taken out of the game. So Velus had to play a bunch of snaps, even when, fatigue could have creeped in, but he made some big plays. He had a nice cross-field touchdown run. He had another run late in the game that if he was fresher, he probably would have been able to run away from those guys, but at least they've increased their radar of other teams looking for possible multiple position playmakers.
And Tom, I think I mentioned this a week or so ago, and it kind of got scoffed at by my coworkers, but the move to running back to me was seen as a no-lose situation for the Bears. Maybe it provides you a little bit of spark and he defines himself, or maybe at the very least he goes out there and makes himself attractive to another team. And maybe he's somebody that would interest you in a, whatever you'd get back in a trade, whether it be a conditional 7th round pick or whatever the case may be. I just think what it does is it gives the Bears options. And I think Ryan Poles has done a brilliant job over the course of the last couple of years, keeping himself available with a number of options in a number of ways.
Would you put any comparisons between Cordarrelle, Patterson, and Velus Jones? No.
I would not. I would not. I mean, I see that people are talking about it. Cordarrelle, I believe, was a first-round draft pick as a wide receiver coming into the league. So I think that there was at least some accomplishment from the very beginning. Look, again, I have nothing against Velus Jones. I've really never met him. I'm sure he's a good guy. I know he's got a lot of talent. But sometimes, and he's one of those guys, though, that if in fact they decide to move on and he goes somewhere and he finds success, that's not a situation, if I was Ryan Poles or anyone in the front office, that I would have regrets. I just wouldn't. I feel comfortable with the roster he's put together. I feel comfortable with the guys at running back and at the wide receiver position and those that can return. And I would just move forward. It's a business. I was on the receiving end of the business on several occasions, so I know it's not a lot of fun at times. But I guess the best way to kind of circle back and sum it up is these are first class problems to have, right? When you improve the overall talent on your roster, and you do have to start waving goodbye to guys that may fit into other teams' systems, then you've upgraded your overall organization.
Exactly. There's certainly levels, and where these fit in the certain levels. And in regards to Velus, the cool thing is they've given him every opportunity possible to prove himself over time. Tastes like Miller time. Go to MillerLite.com/BearsPod to find delivery options near you. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. So the obvious is Caleb Williams as the most interesting player we all want to see perform in a regular season game and see how this season goes. That's a no-brainer. So beyond him, each of you share the next player or two on that list that you are most excited to see here in 2024. It could have been somebody who's been here a while or somebody brand new to the scene, but there you got the floor, buddy.
I was trying to think of this morning. I was going to ask you guys who is the engine of the Chicago Bears offense? And to me, I still think it's DeAndre Swift. And he's the type of guy I want to see play first, second, third down, first, second, third, and fourth quarter. I want to see what the options are outside of him if he's not the designated running back or not the designated receiver. But how does he influence the opponent's defense to open those other opportunities for all the playmakers that they have involved? And I know that the running back position is more of a community position, but I'm interested to see what DeAndre Swift does as a main influence of this offense.
Guys, there's so many names here, really, that you pick from. And I agree with you, Tom, on so many fronts, because I think they are going to run the ball. And I think, and Tom, I tell me if you agree or disagree, you as well, Jeff, like when you see how Buffalo in that play that Caleb tucked and run. And when you go from single high safety to two high safety and Caleb recognizes it, what you're going to do then is you're going to give yourself the opportunity to tuck and run. The point I'm making is I think you're going to see a lot of too high against the Bears offense as they try to protect themselves from the combination of Keenan Allen and DJ Moore and Rome Odunze. And that means, what are you going to do? You're going to run the football. And I agree with you, Tom. I think DeAndre Swift was a 1,000-yard rusher last year at 4.5 yards per carry. He's a player that's going to also contribute to the passing game. So definitely, I think he's going to play an enormous role. I think Rome also will. I love Keenan Allen, true technician, but I think what you're going to find this year is Rome has got to prove to them, and he will, that he's going to be a number 2 receiver sooner rather than later. So it then gives you flexibility next year with regard to what you're going to do with Keenan. I said this for a while too. There's no question that Caleb Williams is the most important person in that building right now. It's the reason why he was the number 1 overall selection. I think Shane Waldren is just behind him.
Yeah.
Shane Waldren is entrusted with developing this first overall pick and getting the most out of him, and also finding a way to get the ball to Swift and to Keenan Allen and to DJ and to Rome Odunze. So how he coordinates this offense is going to be really, really important. And you flip it on the other side, guys. Dexter's the 3 technique. Does he establish himself there? And Tyreek Stevenson, to me, is also a key, because people aren't going to throw at Jaylen. They're just not. Why would you? You'd be silly to. And I think Stevenson's got all the talent in the world and has the capacity to also play as a Pro Bowl caliber corner. So we saw it in the second half of last year. I think he's going to have an opportunity early in this season, as people go away from Jaylen, to really define himself too.
Yeah, I'm going to throw in, I was going to go with the secondary in general, because that's, been where I've been all this last season and this season. But because they started taking the ball away in such big numbers last year, and they've done throughout training camp, they're doing it at all levels in the preseason here. But Jaylen has moved to a different level now. The way he's practicing, and he is feeling his oats. And he's feeling his oats as also a leader on this football team, and he's talking about it, and he's backing it up. Just some of the practice sessions, how he twisted Keenan Allen into knots over the course of time was impressive. And I'm excited to see where that whole secondary goes here in 2024. And a big part of it is that Matt Eberflus, and I discussed this with Ryan Poles in the lead up to this kickoff against Kansas City, is that this is his element. Coach is a ball coach. This is what he is. He's the head coach, and he has to be the head coach, but he's getting to call plays again. And I believe the team took on a different personality when he started back doing it last year, and there's a comfort zone now. And he's got this look in his eye. To me, he's appears to be more intense just on the day-to-day, and I think it's because as a coordinator, you're always thinking about, but now you're the head coach as well, so there's a lot going on. But on game day, just like certain players are game day players, I believe Matt Eberflus gets fired up about game day. He's going to call plays to try and wreck an offense. So I think those are some of the things I'm looking forward to see as they continue to springboard here after what they did last year. And then on the offensive side of the ball, Shane Waldren, as Tom's pointed out in the broadcast repeatedly, he's really come away. He's complimented him in every single broadcast for his balance, and that's just preseason. But that to me is a trigger, because you don't want a play caller to just call plays. There's got to be a method to your madness, and that is an art. And to me, it's the hardest position to find in the National Football League in terms of somebody that you trust, somebody that's going to actually make your players better on the offensive side of the ball. And I believe he's got that in him, and he's going to set teams up over the course of the game. He's not just going to call plays and hope they work. He's got a plan, and it's the Bears' plan, and he's working with what he has. He's not forcing his beliefs on what they have. And I think that's going to net a lot of results. I don't know why this name popped in my head, fellas, and maybe you guys can help me out a little bit on this, but I remember Hunter Hillenmeyer always would tell me, hey, all we want, tell me what we need to, what we have to do, where I'm supposed to be, and I'll do it. And that's it. If you have me questioning what I'm doing or wondering why I'm doing it when it doesn't make sense to me, that's when the trouble starts and things start to unravel. And I don't think that's going to be the case with the Bears offense with Shane Waldron. I don't know how you guys feel about all that.
Yeah, you know what, to build on that, I think it's one of the things that left me puzzled in the past, guys. I kept asking myself week in week, what is going on? It doesn't make sense. Going back to Mitch, Mitch was a one-read throw-it guy and always excelled when you would cut the field in half. And in his final year, as we saw, Coach Nagy cut the field in half. They won 3 of their last 4 games. They scored a bunch of points. I always said, though, that will limit you when you step up in class. Then they went to the postseason and really weren't able to accomplish much because that limits what you're going to do. But it took them so long to really accentuate what Mitch was capable of doing. And while I never thought that, that the previous OC here was was football Satan, I thought he got a little bit too much, abuse for some of the things that went on. It took him a while to get accustomed to or adjusted to what Justin and his offense was capable of doing. I don't have those concerns with Shane Waldron. I'm not suggesting that he's going to make you forget about Kyle Shanahan and other great play callers, but what he does makes sense. It made sense to me in Buffalo, guys, when, you had a couple of guys missing on your O-line, you have shuffling some things. So what do? I mean, he was booting 3 or 4 times, not only to take advantage of what Caleb does well, but to protect him. That's the way I interpreted it. So there's a method to what they're doing, and I think you guys probably have seen it every day in camp, and I concur with a lot of what you're saying, Jeff.
I agree with I agree with everything you said. I can sit here and compliment Shane Waldron even more, but I think Gerald Everett, Jeff and I were doing a interview with him the other day, and he's got a background with Shane Waldron. And it's the best thing that you can have by a player that's already played for you is compliments to the way he goes about business. And I think you see it in Caleb, you see it in the receivers that they have aboard here. But when you hear it from an ex-player, it's kind of that vote of confidence that this guy knows what he's doing and he knows what he's saying. And then going back to Matt Eberflus, because even when we saw this on Hard Knocks, Matt Eberflus can have conversations of coverage with Caleb because he understands coverage and what their responsibilities are and what they're trying to do to the quarterback. So I think that relationship is a good relationship to have when it's not Shane Waldron, but the defensive coordinator knows what he's talking about when he's talking about what the coverage is trying to do to the quarterback. So I think they all, complement each other.
It's such a good point too, Tom. My father-in-law, obviously he played for the Patriots for years, but then was a broadcaster for 25, 30 years. And he was there through the Belichick years. And he would always tell me, Bill Belichick spends more time in the quarterback room than he does in his defensive room. Now he spends time with his defense, but your point is absolutely spot on. He knows everything he's throwing at opposing quarterbacks. So who's better to actually sit and kind of counsel a quarterback than a defensive mastermind? So that's why I agree with you. When I saw Coach Eberflus meeting with Caleb, that's not just for show. There's something really good to be taken out of that.
Does it all the time, too. Vizzy Hard Seltzer, flavors for every vibe. Celebrate responsibly. Molson Coors Beverage Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And we're brought to you by PNC, official bank of the Bears. All right, our final thoughts. Do we feel better about where the Bears are at before the offseason began? More encouraged? Less? Where are you guys at?
I want them to compete in the division. I want them to win division games. I want it at the end of the season where we walk away and go, wow, these guys were physically, mentally, and emotionally prepared week 1 at Soldier Field against the Tennessee Titans. And then that carried through the rest of the season. But I keep thinking about you saying, well, the season really doesn't start to the 11th week when they start playing division games. Eventually, if you're going to set your sights on getting into the playoffs, you got to win the majority of your division games. So as much as I'm interested in week 1 and I want to see a better showing than I saw last year at week 1, when it comes time for those division games, they're going to have a lot of video to watch about Caleb, but the Bears are going to have a lot of video to watch of their opponents.
Listen, I'm as excited and as optimistic about this group as I've been in a really long time. I just think talent-wise, they're better than they've been. They're deeper than they've been. I think they've got the right guy under center. I think, as you guys just talked about, a lot of it makes sense. I still, because I worry quite a bit about certain things. I'm worried that the offensive and defensive lines still need a little bit here and a little bit there. I don't know that I'm fully on board with everything they've got going on there, but listen, you can convince me that O-line will gel nicely and that they will become a top 10 offense, but it's got to start at the line of scrimmage. Yep. The center's got to be solid. You've got to have a couple of reliable guards, and your tackles have got to make progress. If all of that happens, this offense will be really hard to stop. If, in fact, that doesn't happen, there could be some issues, especially with a rookie quarterback. It won't be a straight line to the Super Bowl. There will be ebbs. There will be flows. It'll be a roller coaster. But I expect more good than bad from this team. I really like what Ryan Poles has done. And I really like how they've gone about trying to mold this group. And Tom, you said something about did they learn, or that they did learn from last year's approach to getting ready for the Packers. I think that week 1 loss to the Packers set the tone for the first 6 or 7 weeks of the season. I thought it was the worst loss of the season. I thought it was the worst thing to happen to that team. I get the feeling that they learned from that and that they'll be more ready to play against the Titans, and they'll be more ready to play early in the season.
I agree.
I feel good. I feel good, Jeff.
There's a great sense of appetite for victory throughout this football team right now. There's some hunger. You can feel it in the building when you're there, and you can hear it from the players. All right. Well, that's going to wrap us up. Would have loved to tell more jokes and tell more Tommy Waddle stories, but,
Big Jeff, this is a salute to Tom Waddle, episode 87 of our podcast.
Yes, it is.
Now we're on to 88, so you better go get Glenn Kozlowski's phone number and find him out there.
We're just going to go right down the list.
That's right.
We get to 99, right?
Awesome.
No, we appreciate your time. I know it's valuable as you go to work on. You working today on Waddle and Sylvie? What do you got going?
Of course. Yes. I don't take time off.
All right.
Hey, but seriously,
you've been golfing a lot.
You know how much I appreciate you guys, how much I love you guys.
Right back at you.
You guys are great teammates. Thanks for having me.
Right back at you. Waddle. Special thanks to Tommy Waddle. For Tom, I'm Jeff. Thanks for listening, everybody. Please subscribe now on the Chicago Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bear down.